Welcome, Queens, to another episode. I always say that, don't I? But then what else do I say? Welcome. Hello. Hello, my love. How are you? Anyway, welcome. On a serious note, welcome to another episode to the Body Love Binge with me, Victoria. I'm going to talk about exercise today in recovery, and I've only got bullet point notes. Didn't feel like writing a whole blog post on this, so I've just got some bullet points to speak to in a flowing manner. And the title, as I'm sure you know, is Should You Stop Exercising in Recovery, in Eating Disorder Recovery? Well, what I'm about to say might be contradictory, which is why I wanted to create an episode about it, because my answer to this is not necessarily no. So hear me out on this. Have a few questions. Do the positive aspects of what you get from exercise outweigh the negatives in recovery? So what I wrote down, and I've got my list to share with you, that when I answered my own question, I wrote these down for myself. Everything that exercise does for me, so I invite you to the same, write down everything exercise does for you, including what it does for the controlling eating disorder. And my list was this. Okay, so this is what exercise does for me. This was at the start of my recovery. Calorie burning and weight control. It's a rule. It's something I just have to do without any exceptions to feel okay. Muscle building, which actually in hindsight, this is a joke because I was not nourishing myself enough to build muscle. Anxiety release, feel good endorphins, fresh air and time in nature to help ground me if my chosen exercise was to go on a run. So your list might look similar to mine. And I want to ask yourself this question and answer it honestly, because if you're lying to yourself, there's no point, because you're recovering for you. You're not recovering for anybody else. So the question is, would I still do the exercise if I didn't burn any calories or shape my body in any way? The answer for me was actually yes. Although it would make me angry if I didn't burn calories and my body didn't change in any way during exercise, I would still choose to exercise because of all the other benefits it gave me. So that's why I didn't stop exercising actually in recovery. I did, however, and this is really important, change my relationship to exercise. I stopped doing high intensity interval training. I do it again now, but that was a process to build back up slowly. And I practiced taking all the pressure off myself. So this would look like when I would go on a run, I wouldn't wear a fitness tracker, a Fitbit. I wouldn't take my phone and have a running app to tell me how fast my minute miles were. I took my phone for music or podcasts, but I deleted all the apps that would track my exercise. And if you have Apple Health, I think that's ingrained in your phone, just don't look at it. Don't even look to see how many steps and whatever you've done. If I was doing a workout and my body was telling me to stop, I would actually allow myself to stop without just pushing through. That was a big one. I'd use less weight, especially at the start of recovery. I would use less weight. I wouldn't keep trying to get my PBs, my personal bests every time I was lifting. I wouldn't try and get faster every time I was doing a circuit. I just took all the pressure off myself. And I completely changed my relationship to exercise. But I didn't stop all exercise because it did bring me so many other benefits. And it actually enabled me to get used to my bigger body, because exercise encourages you to be in your body when you're moving your body, especially if you're in nature. It can be very, very grounding and very relaxing, as long as you're on the recovery path, right? You've got to want to recover. You've got to make changes with your relationship with exercise. And it helped me to get used to my bigger body. I didn't like it. When I was doing mountain climbers and abs and stuff like that, I all of a sudden had a stomach that was in the way that I've never had before. And that was horrible. And it just helped me to face my fears and see my body get bigger and really practice appreciating what my body could do and noticing the stomach roll and just practicing being okay with that and not making it mean anything. So actually it was a very transformative space for me in recovery when I was exercising, because I was choosing to do everything it took using different mindset tools, perception shifts, the deep inner work to actually recover. There's a difference, okay? You need to want it and you need to be actively recovering. Some people can't exercise in recovery because they're so exhausted due to severe edema or just pure exhaustion. And that's when you need to listen to your body. This is very typical for those that have stayed in anorexia for a long time and their bodies have a shitload of repair work to do, a lot of inner work that you don't even know is happening, that your body is doing. And so you need to rest and not exercise at all. Your body will guide you for that though. For me, it was a bit of a different story. And the reason for that was because when I was in the anorexia, it was when I was a teenager. Well, I started anorexia when I was about 11, 12, and I was in anorexia until about the age of 18. So during that recovery process, it wasn't fully recovery, it was weight restoration. But even then, I was still underweight for my body. But the professionals didn't know that because they did everything on BMI. And I was forced to eat. So I was eating more, but I was actually working at the time. My mum made a deal with, this was actually probably a lifesaver for me. My passion was horses. Those of you that have followed me for a while will probably already know this. I started riding horses at the age of 5. And then when I left school at 16, I actually just worked with horses straight away. I got all my horse qualifications, and that's been my life until I was 30 years old, training horses, show jumping, buying youngsters, selling them on, all of that. So it would have been when I was 15, almost 16 actually, because I would have just broken up from school and I completely finished school, done my exams and everything in the anorexia, may I add. I don't know how I managed to get through that, but I did, got good grades as well somehow, even though my brain was completely malnourished. My mum made a deal with someone who I really looked up to, my riding instructor. She was called Lorraine, and she was quite famous in the horse world. She jumped at, if any of you are horsey, she's jumped at Hickstead and Horse of the Year show and all of that, Lorraine Moon. And she had her own show jumping yard. And the deal was I could go and work for her for the whole entire summer on one condition, and that was that I had to eat something every 2 hours. And so whatever Lorraine brought me, I had to eat. No exceptions, no excuses. If I didn't eat something, I was to be sent straight home. This was on top of like 3 massive fuck off meals every single day that I hated. But thankfully, my passion for horses at that time and for learning and for being around them was stronger than staying in the eating disorder, thank goodness. So that was like a deal that my mum made with this Lorraine. And it also got me out of the house because I loved my mum, but at the same time hated her because she was making me eat all the time. And so I also hated Lorraine in a way because she was also making me eat, but I was too scared. She was too much on a pedestal for me to argue with her at all. So I actually started my anorexia recovery journey properly whilst I was doing a lot of exercise. Now, it's important to note that this wasn't purposeful exercise. It wasn't like I was going to the gym and doing gym classes and all of that. I was working with horses. I was riding 6 to 7 horses a day, mucking out stables and all of that. But I was eating a lot. So that was my anorexia recovery journey with exercise. And then I weight restored. And again, I wasn't fully weight restored, but I gained weight that way because of the severity of the amount of food I was eating. But the exercise or body movement with the horses actually kept me sane. It kept me wanting to live because I had something to live for other than the eating disorder and recovery, which I didn't want. So in a way, it really supported and served me. With my true recovery, because those of you that know my story, the anorexia just morphed into bulimia and binge eating until I was 30 years old. So from the age of 9, I started dieting, anorexia from the age of 11, 12 to about the age of 18. And then I just morphed into bulimia and binge eating until I was 30. So that was 6 years ago. I'm 36 as I record this. And when I started that recovery, I'd already weight restored even more. I'd actually gotten an overshoot weight because I was just binging, because I was mentally restricting, hating my body, all of that stuff. Thankfully, I'd seemed to have lost the ability to restrict. And this happened very late on before I started my true recovery journey. And so my body had done a lot of repair work over the years. I just kept eating more and more and still restricting, but then losing the ability over time to continually, to severely restrict. So when I started my true recovery, I stopped all the HIIT, I stopped all the high intensity. Like I've just shared, I did run, but I didn't have any Runkeeper apps or anything like that. So my body didn't need to do all the repair work because that had actually already been done during 15 years or so, as I was still mentally in an eating disorder. And I say not physically, I was, but in terms of my weight and what my body was building and repairing in the background. So that's why my story is different. Those that are in anorexia recovery who haven't yet morphed into bulimia or binge eating, because most people do eventually, not everyone, but most people, then your body has so much repairing to do. You can't exercise because your body makes it clear as day that exercise isn't convenient or even accessible to it. So you have to surrender to that. Some people are unable to change their relationship with exercise and so continue with their compulsions and use exercise as compensation for eating, regardless of whether they're in the anorexia, the bulimia, the binge eating, whatever. If this is the case for you, then you must stop exercising. How? The same way that you stop purging. You use all of that grit, determination, and commitment that you absolutely have within you to stop doing it. You have the power to stop, really. If you want recovery and you have the right support and you feel heard and acknowledged and understood, and you have a vision of where you want to get to, you can stop. I promise you. Because your brain is always watching you, right? You need to train your brain to serve you in recovery. Because here's the thing, you've already trained your brain to serve you in the eating disorder. You weren't born with an eating disorder. The eating disorder came along to serve you in some way, else it wouldn't have happened. So usually that is childhood trauma, whether you're aware of trauma or not. Trauma is not only just physically being abused, there's abuse in so many other ways that I would guarantee 99.999% of people with eating disorders have childhood trauma, because there's always a reason why the eating disorder is developed. So regardless of the reason, you've trained yourself to be in an eating disorder. You've ignored hunger cues right from the beginning. You've made yourself exercise when you didn't want to, until it became your reality, until it became your safe space of just, this is what you do. So guess what? You can train yourself the opposite. You can untrain yourself to do all the rules and the compulsive things, and you can train yourself to act like a person who doesn't have an eating disorder. You can do that. You have the power infinitely within you to do that. I've had a few clients who have worked with an eating disorder specialist who didn't allow them to exercise at all, not even go on a walk. It wasn't even up for discussion. It was, you are not allowed to do any form of exercise at all for like a year or something like that. Now, I do understand why these people, these eating disorder specialists may have recommended that. I'm not saying it's always a bad thing, but I'm always open to discussion because everyone's different. I do recommend those people that start working with me take a month off exercise, depending on where they're at in their story and, you know, what situation they're currently in with exercise, to take a month off at the beginning. They're allowed to walk if the walking isn't compulsive. That's really important. But take a month off at the beginning of recovery and rest as much as possible. And then after that month, I'm open to seeing where the client's at. For example, I'm thinking of just one client in particular. She was 19 when she came to me, and she was in severe anorexia. So it was like, you know, really full-blown anorexia recovery. And she had this like swimming, I don't know what you call it, like a swimming exercise class. And I allowed her to continue that every week, because it was actually the only time she got to socialize, the only time she got to like be without an eating disorder, if you like, and just be a human and socialize and have fun and feel the water and all of that. Yes, it was body movement. Yes, it was exercise, intended exercise, but the benefits outweighed her not going and her isolating herself at home even more. So if I can see in a client that the eating disorder is pushing back to me and asking to exercise again for the eating disorder reasons, then I'll deny that request denied to start exercising again. And I'll set boundaries with how much the client can walk. Because walking in nature is so beneficial to recovery in so many ways, due to the grounding aspect of being in nature, the fresh air, and some gentle, I've emphasized the words gentle, some gentle body movement to support digestion. It's really good for you. So depending on the client, I have a client who came to me and her previous therapist said no exercise, not even any walking whatsoever. Whereas actually walking was really beneficial for her mental health. She lives in Florida and she loves the ocean and the ocean breeze and the beach and the smell of the sea. And so I actually had a conversation with her only a couple of weeks into recovery with me, because she didn't feel that that therapist was aligned for her and it wasn't really helping her in recovery. And I said, look, I'm open for you to start walking again. I just want you to keep checking in with me. Is it compulsive? How long are you walking for? Are you enjoying it? Like, why are you doing it? And so we talked about it, and now she's enjoying daily walks and she's getting so much from it, because the emotions that are coming up, because we're doing a lot of inner child work and a lot of childhood trauma stuff, there's a lot of emotion there. And every single emotion is energy in motion. And so walking can help move that energy through your body. And it is helping her move the energy through her body. And she's crying when she's walking and she's laughing when she's walking. It can be so beneficial. So I ask my clients these 3 questions, and depending on their answers, I recommend what to do for them going forward. So I'm going to ask you the same 3 questions. Why do you want to exercise? Is the reason for wanting to exercise based from fear or from love? A fear-based reason will look like, I need to burn calories. I need to get steps in. The eating disorder says I have to. That's fear-based. A love-based reason for wanting to exercise or move your body is, it genuinely is so good for my mental health. I feel so much better after. I genuinely want to take care of my body and start to have slow movement because I feel better physically and mentally and emotionally afterwards. That's from a place of love. The second question is it pleasurable? If it's not pleasurable, don't do it. I know, contrary to popular belief, when you're at the gym, when you're working out, no pain, no gain, all of that, which I used to definitely buy into, sweat is fat crying and all of that bollocks. I used to do things that I hated because I thought that was what you meant to do, to like be really, a warrior-ass and to be a badass in the gym. But actually, if you don't enjoy it, why are you doing it? There's a difference between using effort and using discipline to make yourself do something you don't want to do. So if it's not pleasurable, do not do it. So the second question, is it actually pleasurable? The third question, this is one of the most important questions, is it flexible? Meaning, if you had planned to walk tomorrow and for some reason you can't, are you going to have an anxiety freak out because you can't walk? Because if so, that's showing you and me that the reason why you want to do the thing tomorrow that has got cancelled is based in fear. So those 3 questions: why, is it pleasurable, is it flexible? Let me just have a sip of water, excuse me. Because exercise, it can help you connect to your body. As I was saying before, it can help you be in your body and feel good in your body. It's not natural for someone to sit inside day in, day out and only focus on food and recovery. Now, this is where everyone is in as an individual, obviously, but it's like being with your fear 24/7 with absolutely no break from it. And that can be detrimental to recovery. Like I was sharing with you, my previous client, the 19-year-old, if she didn't go to that swimming thing once a week, she would have no socialization. She would have no place to like be a teenager that isn't always having to be in recovery or thinking about food. Because at the beginning of anorexia recovery, especially, you're thinking about food a lot, and that is the opposite to freedom, but you need to go through that part in order to make sure you're eating enough and obviously facing your fears. And then beyond fear lies freedom. And again, for me, with the horses, if I had not been given that option, and this wasn't exercise purposely, but it was a lot of body movement, if I'd been told to sit at home all day and not move and rest and eat all the same amount as what I was eating in recovery, I think I'd have been so fucking depressed. I might have ended my life or just been so resistant to it because I would have had nothing else to focus on. So the body movement for me, and later on in my recovery, when I truly recovered at 30 from the bulimia and the binge eating, exercise and body movement allowed me to give my brain a rest from food all the time and what I should eat and what I needed to be eating in order to recover. And so it was a breath of fresh air in a way. It was actually very supportive for me, enabled me to open my mind up to other things other than recovery. I was able to socialize, go on walks with friends, go to a gym class and do normal things. And that helps me to build my life back up, actually. So you can see how important it can be for someone to have body movement and exercise, depending on the reasons why behind it. And of course, through all of this, I was always ensuring that I was eating enough food until my hunger cues came back. And then I could simply, but not easily, simply surrender to unrestricted eating. I could surrender to my mental and physical hunger. And then my body guided me. But at the beginning, like I said, if you've been in severe restriction for so long, your body will make you rest anyway. Well, I say make you rest. Those with an eating disorder have extreme dedication, commitment, and grit. But use that to serve you. Use all of those things that got you in the eating disorder to start with. Use those to get you out of the eating disorder. And if your body's asking you to rest, you must rest. Otherwise, you're just perpetuating the eating disorder. And that's on you because you're recovering for yourself. You're doing this for you. Yes, your family will benefit because they get you back again. They actually get to see you live and love who you are and love your life. And yes, if that feels so far away for you and so out of reach, I'm here to remind you it is not. I promise you, you can have a life that does not revolve around food, exercise, and your body. Everyone is different, of course, so it's so important to work with someone who you trust, who is an expert in eating disorder recovery and can support you through your own personal recovery journey with food and with exercise. So to answer the question at the beginning, the title again of this episode, should you stop exercising in recovery? It all depends, but the answer is not a hard no. So for me now, my relationship with exercise has completely transformed. I work out about 3 days a week. Sometimes I go on a run as a fourth day if I feel like it. There's no pressure at all. I have a personal trainer because I like to be told what to do, but he's in alignment with who I am and the values I have. So yes, he pushes me, but I know and he knows that I also honor my body. So I know when to stop now. I do it because it feels so good and I rest a lot more. I used to train like 6 days a week. When I was in the full-blown anorexia, I would exercise all day if I could. I would like wake up in the night and do sit-ups and star jumps and all those kinds of things. Like it was a compulsive movement. Then when I when it kind of moved into bulimia, I would overtrain at the gym and exercise like 6-7 days a week, twice a day. And then now I exercise, like I say, 3 days a week. 2 of those are only weight training with no cardio or HIIT at all. One of those is like a HIIT kind of circuit-based class at the gym, like a CrossFit type thing. And the other is just a gentle, slow, run in the woods if I want to. And I just listen to my body. And if I need to rest and take a week off, I will. It doesn't matter. I just listen to my body. So you have to be able to be open to changing your relationship with exercise. It's linked to the eating disorder. Once you no longer have that compulsions and the obsessiveness and the rules and the compensation for the food, the exercise kind of starts to heal itself naturally. But if exercise has been your choice of purging behaviors, then it can be more complex. But that's when you'd reach out to someone like myself or someone else who understands all of this, and everyone's different, like I say, who can get you on the road to recovery. So in the end, you can have a healthy, fun relationship with exercise and still be fit and healthy and strong, but it's all from a place of love and a lot of rest, because actually when you're resting, your body's building back up and getting stronger. When you're working out and exercising, your body's breaking down, so you need that time to rest. All right, loves, if you have any questions off the back of this, as always, please send me a DM or an email. I'm always happy to answer any questions. If you have a question you'd like me to put into an episode, please let me know. And as always, please just take a few seconds. It literally takes, 2 seconds? Probably a bit more if you have to find where to do it. But on Spotify and Apple, leave me a 5-star review. Someone at some point has left me a 1-star review. I'm very upset about that. I don't know if it was by accident or if it was on purpose. It's absolutely fine if you don't like my podcast, but why go and out your way and rate it 1 star? So it's at 4.9. I'm curious if as many people as possible can rate me 5 stars, if that ever drowns that out. Let's see. So I would appreciate your help with this in advance. If you want to work with me, check out my website. I offer membership from €20 a month, group coaching from €125 a month, with lifetime access to me, meaning in 10 years' time, you can still come on a coaching call with me every other week. Honestly, it's so much value in that group coaching, and bespoke personalized one-to-one coaching as well, where you become my person to serve. Okay, loves, well, I will see you next week with another episode. The next couple of weeks, the next upcoming 2 weeks, I've got guest episodes already pre-recorded because I'm in London this weekend. And then I have my first ever retreat that I'm hosting on the 22nd for 3 days of September. So I'll be busy there with all the ladies that are joining. I'm so excited. And I will be hosting retreats in the future. Like I say, this is my first one. So excited about it. So if you want any more info about that, just let me know for the future. And I love you, every single one of you listening or watching this. And I'm sending you so much love. Big kisses. And I'll see you next time.